Keystroke logging or keylogging is the recording of key strikes input to a computer via the computer keyboard. Most of the time, the victim is unaware that a keylogger has been enabled on their system. Under the malware umbrella, a keylogger falls under the spyware subcategory and is either software-based or hardware-based. Software-based keyloggers are programs that record the key strikes from the keyboard. They can be used for legal as well as illegal reasons. The legal reasons being a network administrator troubleshooting the network, or a high security environment has a breach and they need to try to work out where the breach has come from. Primarily, keyloggers are used for malicious reasons to steal credit card information or passwords. Hardware-based keyloggers are physical devices that sit between the keyboard and the computer, and once again records the key strikes input from the user. With the increase of wireless keyboards, wireless keylogging has become a possibility by cracking the encryption between the wireless keyboard and the computer. Hardware keyloggers aren't as popular as software keyloggers because the attacker needs physical access to that device to install that keylogger. So it'll either require them to socially engineer themselves into that property to be able to access that machine, or breaking and entering, or using an insider threat such as an employee who's disgruntled, for instance, or they're paying a lot of money for to fit the keylogger onto the machine for the attacker. Earlier I mentioned spyware. So what is spyware and how do you get it? Spyware is a type of malware that infects your PC or mobile device and gathers information about you, including the sites you visit, things you download, your usernames and passwords, payment information, and the emails you send and receive. Spyware can infect computers and mobiles in many ways, but here's a few of the popular ways. Exploiting security vulnerabilities. Like I did in my last video, I created a reverse connection executable file which bypassed antivirus on the victim machine, and when the file was opened, it installed an executable and then opened the image file displaying an invoice and initiated the reverse connection. I then had the option to start a keylogger, which I didn't do on that particular video. Or there's good old phishing. Creating a spoof email pretending to be from a legitimate source, asking the victim to click the link, which is loaded with malware, or download an attachment, again loaded with malware including spyware. Misleading marketing. If you've ever seen an advertisement for a free computer disk cleaner or a computer accelerator, it's most likely going to be some form of malware, and spyware will hide among that. If you eventually realise the software is malicious and uninstall it, the spyware will most likely remain behind and be invisible on your machine. And the last one is within software bundles. Free software will always catch people's eye, especially if the software is known to be a premium service such as music recording software or graphic design software. Downloaded from a website that you're not familiar with can lead to a spyware infection. But spyware can also be concealed in genuine freeware. If you have installed free software and accepted the terms and conditions, you may have unknowingly agreed to have some form of spyware installed. To demonstrate a keylogger, I'll need to access a victim machine and have them install the keylogger unknowingly. I'll need to create a reverse connection payload and deliver it through a method such as email or to a spoofed website link. I'll then use Metasploit to listen for the reverse connection back to my machine and then start the keylogger. In my previous video, I showed in detail the creation of a payload and its delivery method to the victim, so I'm not going to go through that method again in this video, but I'll now skip forward to setting up the reverse connection. So in my Kali machine, I'm going to use the MSF console or the Metasploit framework console. And once it's loaded, I'm going to use the multi-handler. The multi-handler is what handles the exploit launched from outside the network. In our case, it's going to listen for a TCP reverse connection. I'm now going to select options and then I'm going to set the payload. So I'll do set payload, Windows, interpreter, reverse TCP. If I do options again, it now asks me for a L host and L port. The L host is the IP address of my Linux machine, and the L port is the port it's going to be listening to for the reverse connection come back to the multi-handler. I'm now going to do set L host to my IP, which is 10.0.2.6, and then set L port to 8080, which is just an alternative HTTP port. I'll then do options again, and I can see the fields have all been filled in properly, and I'm going to go ahead and do run. So that's now started the reverse TCP handler on my local IP address listening on port 8080, We can assume that the executable has been emailed as an attachment or sent as a website link to the victim. They've now downloaded it and they're just about to execute the file. Once again, I do explain in my last video sending a executable via an email link or an attachment. So back on my Windows machine, the victim's Gareth Keenan, as I've got up on the screen here. He's downloaded the "This is not a keylogger" folder, which I'm going to go and execute, and I can see that the TCP reverse handler has started a session. So I'm now connected to the victim machine. If I go ahead and type in pwd, I can see that I'm inside the victim's computer within the folder where the executable is stored. If I type in ps and look through the processes and look for Explorer, this is what I want to migrate with. I want to migrate with this because I won't have to worry about this particular connection being reset, therefore closing down the interpreter session. We can gain a persistent connection by migrating with this process. So I'm going to do migrate 4032, and it's migrating from 6040 to 4032, and it's now successfully migrated. Now I'm going to type in help. In this list, I have many tools in here that can aid me in attacking this machine. I can do a screen share to see the victim's desktop. I can record audio from the microphone on the victim computer, and I can also enable the victim's webcam to see them in real time. So I want to see if the victim is active on the computer, so I can do idle time. This will tell me the last interaction the victim had with their keyboard, which was 12 seconds ago. If I now go to the Windows machine and interact with the system, then go back to Kali and then do idle time, I can see the last interaction was 2 seconds ago. If I weren't able to see the victim screen at this point, I could use this to work out if the victim is sitting in front of the computer, because the idle time would be low. So right now I'm going to start a screen share. Now I've started a screen share, I can see the victim computer with a document open. This is why it's bad practice to store personal and sensitive information on your machine. This victim's currently looking at their banking information. If I wanted to, I could pivot to the location that that document is stored at and download it for myself. So I'll now close the screen share, go back to Kali and begin keylogging the victim. So I'm going to run a post exploit. So I'm going to do run post Windows capture keylog recorder. I now get a message back saying keylog recorder started. Back on the victim machine, if I go to Facebook, I can see the genuine web page is loaded using HTTPS and most likely HSTS, or the HTTP strict transport security, so adds a line of defense against man-in-the-middle attack. The keylogger does not get affected by HTTPS or HSTS because that only protects data in transit between the client and the server. We're listening directly from the keyboard of the victim machine and not going to the server, so anything the victim types comes to me in plain text. On the victim machine, I'll go put on some fake details, so Keenan at wernhamhogg.co.uk and fake password. The details that I capture I'll share later on. I'll now go off to Twitter and do the same thing. Keenan wernhamhogg.co.uk and a password. Again, I'll share that later on. I'll now go off to PayPal and attempt to log in as well. So I'll do Keenan at wernhamhogg.co.uk. This time I'll type in the password and I'll show it in plain text as well, just so we can do it as a cross-reference when I show the keylog data later on. The secret password, exclamation mark, to login. It's going to fail because I haven't got an account. So if I now go back to the Kali machine, stop the keylogger, and the capture keystrokes have saved themselves into a document on the Kali machine. If I go ahead and open that, see the text file here. So I can see that the victim went to facebook.com, typed in Keenan at wernhamhogg.co.uk and put the password in of boy faster than shark ? Then followed on to twitter.com, Keenan at wernhamhogg.co.uk, and then done a password of Mr. Territorial. And finally went to PayPal, same email, Keenan at wernhamhogg.co.uk, and then typed in secret password, then done a right shift, ! From here, I can go off and try different accounts that the victim may use, such as eBay or Amazon, and exploit that account with these details. To protect yourself from a keylogger, it always comes down to the absolute basics. Don't open email attachments or click on a link within an email from a sender you don't know. That link or that email attachment could be loaded with malware and therefore download a keylogger, then capture all your inputs. If the emails were sent into spam, there's probably a good reason for it. If you're unsure about an email being sent to you, Google it, see if there's been any reports of that email spamming other people or infecting them with malware. Keep your antivirus up to date and perform regular deep scans of your system. Keeping it up to date will download the latest threat signatures and will aid in protecting your machine against any malicious software. If you try and download premium software for free, such as Adobe Photoshop or a music recording software, chances are that website you're downloading it from is going to be loaded with malware, including the keylogger or any sort of other spyware. It's best just not to risk it. Check the terms and conditions upon installing any freeware. Although the software may be legitimate, looking in the terms and conditions, if you skim read it, it may well say that you agree to have any spyware installed in your computer. Finally, as well as using different passwords for different accounts, try to enable multi-factor or two-factor authentication to add an extra layer of defense for your accounts. Thank you for watching. As I say in my videos, I hope you can take away some knowledge and understanding on some of the methods that attackers use to gain access to your devices and how you can now protect yourself against such threats.